And we are live, like Lakeside. Hallelujah.
As I go along from day to day, I thank the Lord He has made my way. Standing there when I'm up, lift me up when I'm down. Oh, He never found me. He's always around. That's why I'm thankful. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, Lord, thank God I am. Hey, late last night, I fell off the sleep. Woke up this morning, strong as I could be. Give all my pain, I give it all to Him. Didn't have to move, not one single limb. That's why I'm thankful. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, Lord. Oh, yes, I am. Listen, He let me live. See another day, Lord, I'm thankful. Oh, yes, I am. Well, He moved all the stumbling blocks out of my way. Lord knows I'm thankful. Oh, yes, I am. Here's another thing. For without His love, I couldn't do a thing. That's why I keep on praising His name. Hey, I'm thankful. Oh, yes, I am.
If you're thankful tonight, keep on praising His name in the middle of it.
Praise ye the Lord, sing unto the Lord a new song. Well, let's praise Him in the congregation of the saints. Praise ye the Lord, I will praise the Lord with my whole heart. In the assembly of the upright and in the congregation. Praise ye the Lord, from the heavens, praise Him in the high. Oh yeah, yeah. Praise Him upon the high cymbals, praise Him upon the loud sounding cymbals. To the things that have breath, praise the Lord, praise His name, praise Him, yeah. Praise Him, praise ye the Lord, praise ye the name of the Lord. Praise Him, O ye servants of the Lord. Praise ye the Lord, O give thanks unto the Lord. For He is good, and His mercy endureth forever. Praise ye the Lord, from the heavens, praise Him in the heights. Oh yeah, yeah. Praise Him upon amongst the high symbols. Place him amongst the loud sounding symbols. Praise the Lord, praise his name.
Praise his name. And I'm so glad you came. Welcome, loved ones. Welcome. There's Big Nephew Ronell, Brother Minister Ronell, Sergeant of Arms, the original Captain at the Dome. Always a blessing to see you. King of Kong, peace and blessings to you. Lady Soul, peace and blessings, Lady Soul. Sister Candy, baby Sister Jessica H in the place. Rihanna B in the place to be. Sister Candy, that's right and exact. Sister Natasha Lobb in the house. Sister Rachel Corbray. Sister Minister Tanya in the house. Big Nephew Jerome. Cassie A in the place. Good to see you. Shalom, IC. Welcome. Right on, Sister Sammy. Thankful. It's the way to stay, not the way to be. Amen. It's the way to stay. Peace and blessings. Gerard Jones. Peace and blessings. Mike Jr. Much respect to you. JC. Shalom. Hola. Sister Nakisha. I bring it. Says hi. S. Kane. Blessings and peace to you, brother. Big Sister Elaine C in the place to be. And welcome. Number one was Sister Cassie A. And number two was Gerard Jones. What up, Big Nephew? We're going to give our family a little bit more time to get on in here. 46 folks in attendance. 25 hit the like. I appreciate you for showing your appreciation tonight. There's big niece, Sister Mr. Imani Steele. She says she'll be in and out, but she's here. Welcome. Good to see you. Sister Tanya Vasquez, blessings to you. Sadie Mae, praise the Lord. Right on. Peace and blessings to you. April Armstrong, peace and blessings. Welcome. Glad you got a chance to catch us live. There's our sister, Cookie Cruncher. Peace and blessings, Cookie Cruncher. And our prayers continue with you and your mother, Mother Yvonne. Let us know how everything's going with that. How did the procedure go? Jesus, the way, truth, and life. Peace and blessings to you. There's Stephanie P. from the D coming through. There's our sister, Tracy Sigler. Peace and blessings. And welcome to you. Glad you can make it. Peace and blessings to the boys. Silk Don. Grace and blessings, mine. Five services, peace and blessings, brother. And we're going to see how we can sneak around and watch these two episodes. Now, I've got the two episodes that are most controversial. And what I may have to do is fight to keep these up because we can skip around and dip around, but there would be nothing more effective than to actually watch it, pause it as we go through, and break things down as we go through these two particular episodes. Now, it's not just the two episodes in question, but the hermetic nature of sitcoms in general, the programming philosophy behind sitcoms. While there's a sitcom for every demographic, they even had one for the homosexual demographic. The growing homosexual or pink hand agenda in America brought us Will and Grace. It can be argued that shows like Three's Company helped to soften people's ideals toward homosexuality, although John Ritter, who played Jack Tripper, was supposed to be acting as if he was homosexual. The reaction that Mr. Furley had to homosexuality was so over the top and such a caricature that it began to make people make fun of folks who were not comfortable with homosexuals. And Mr. Furley began to be a representation of that in his terrible wardrobe and with his nervous and shaky and frantic nature. Don Knotts was good at that, playing that role. But his job, or the job of that show, was to program people's ideals, and that's the job of most shows. So we're going to look at two episodes, one episode from each show, Sanford and Son and Good Times. And it's no secret that these two shows were aimed at the black community, and they had specific and tailored programming, like all the programming does. There are some shows aimed at the what they used to call the yuppie generation, or the upwardly mobile young white kids straight out of college, the Friends. So you had different shows, again, aimed for folks with different type of lifestyles. And also Three's Company had a lot to do with the swinger mentality, and it was part of the Jiggle TV programming set. Jiggle TV was the notorious television programs in the 70s where, probably a lot of females didn't notice, but young men up in the 70s would notice that Charlie's Angels would run around braless, and so would Chrissy and Janet from Three's Company. And this was, of course, another way to subliminally program the young people who were watching. Whether they should have been watching or not is a whole other question. Where was the supervision there? I watched Three's Company all the time. But it was to help to program the pliable minds that watched into accepting more loose ideals concerning sexuality. And if you notice, that has been a theme ever since The Garden. This idea that to truly be free means to be sexually promiscuous. That's really what it boils down to, especially in American society. But American society is the capital or center of Babylonian philosophy, the Babylon world system. It's a world system, but we are certainly the leaders of the philosophical part of that system. Okay, no one is paying much attention to the trends in Russia or Japan or the other superpowers to shape the way that they want to live their lives. But everyone looks at America as this ideal example, and an American as an ideal example, or at least they did before 9/11. The years after 9/11, American popularity overseas plummeted. It hit all-time lows. And the way that folks everywhere, like, you had shows like Perfect Strangers, where it showed you the and another one too, the one with the Russian, Yakov Smirnov. He had a show too, where they were showing you how much folks wanted to get over here to America, and how America represented this dream, this place where you could live a lifestyle of your own choosing and freedom and blah blah blah, and a big part of that being sexual freedom. Even when the campaigns were started in the Middle East during the Bush years, both Daddy and Junior, you had a push to try to psychological, part of the psychological warfare. We always wage psychological warfare, whether it's blaring Metallica through the speakers at crowds of protesters or whatever the case may be, or at the so-called enemy. But part of the psychological warfare was to get the women to believe that they were being deprived of their freedom because they couldn't drop it like it's hot and bust it wide open, like American women are advertised to be so willing to do. This is another reason why your Beyoncés and your Janet Jacksons and others can go overseas, especially to the Middle East, where there is more sexual, we would look at it as sexual repression, but there's more modesty. Okay, you can say it's extreme. We know that Islam is not the way to go. Any denial of Christ as both deity and man, is you're way off, and so a lot of things you're going to do are going to be thrown off. So it's thrown off the degree that they take it to, but the point is still the modesty. And so part of the psychological campaign that America waged against the Middle East was to try to convince the women that you need to take off that hijab. And, put on something revealing and slinky. And then you'll be free. Freedom. Freedom. I am woman. Hear me roar. And so they wanted to sell that the women's lib idea was also to do this same thing. And in Three's Company and in other shows, you also saw this push for women's liberation, which in theory, of course, we all want the best for our sisters, for our mothers, for our aunties and grandmas. But at the same time, you got to realize the overplay for the underlay. Whenever they tell you something is good for you here in this Babylonian system, it's always overplay for the underlay. There's a trick bag. Wait for it. Even better, there's a trick bag. Look for it. But you even had like on Archie Bunker, which was a very great example of a programming show. You had on Archie Bunker Gloria representing this feminism, this new feminism, right? And she almost emasculated Mike, or she went over the top of Mike all the time. And even Archie couldn't always control her with his pig-headed representation of a bigot, or of a simple Midwestern mindset. Okay, and again, that whenever they show like the Archer Bunker characters or the Fred Sanford characters, they're trying to kill off an old ideal. So what they will do is they will amplify everything negative about the old ideal. Yes, white folks was less used to black folks in those days than they are today. And yes, racism had and slavery had and the civil rights movement had more of a fresh, or it hadn't long gone, and so you still had the sensitivities of that time during those shows. And so, what the idea was for the New World Order to push forward, and for the homosexual agenda and the feminism agenda and the other agendas that helped to homogenize everyone into this one Baphomet prototype, this cookie cutter Baphomet form that we're all to be shaped into. That was the goal of shows like Archie Bunker and Sanford and Son, to take out the old way of thinking by pulling out the part of the old thinking that was stinking. And no one's perfect. Every generation has its issues, and that is, of course, to make no excuse for Archie being a bigot, or for Fred being a bigot, because Fred was as bigoted as they come. He was bigoted the way that old black folks was bigoted. As much as Fred a bigot, because he didn't have the power to be a racist, he was prejudiced, he prejudged. As much as he did that, he still would turn around and say he didn't want to go to no black doctor. Get him a white doctor. Even better, I think he said Jewish doctor. So he had them old school ideals. They could pull out that type of ignorance and highlight that, make the laugh track go, or turn on the applause sign during Archie's ignorant joke or during Fred's ignorant joke. And it makes a joke of them and their generation. That's the intention. That's the intention. It's very clever. It's a very clever way to do that. It is Hegelian and Hermetic simultaneously, because they're playing both ends against the middle, only to get, you know, they're forcing you at both ends only to drive you toward a desired middle, a problem reaction solution. They are creating, or they are giving you a thesis, and then a antithesis, and then they want to homogenize the two. And so what they end up doing is they make Lamont look dumb for believing all of the things that he believes, and then they make Fred look dumb for believing all the things that he believes. But at the end of the day, they will show and prove that, Lamont is with what's happening now. Another show, programming for the hood. But Lamont is with what's happening now, and Fred have to be brought up to speed. Remember, he brought a bag of chicken wings, fried chicken wings, in a paper bag on an airplane flight instead of ordering some food. And things like that. So we laugh, ha 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 ha, oh how ignorant he is, but it was prudent and frugal. Okay, and again, that's an extreme example, but it was again another way to indoctrinate you into thinking that the way of the old folks, what old folks thought and believed, is to be abandoned. And do you know what the number one way that old folks thought and believed that they want you to abandon is? The way they believed concerning religion, the way they believed in the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. So, I think most folks have already guessed the two episodes that I would like for us to examine are these. From Sanford and Son, the episode entitled You Don't Look It. I know folks have shown bits and pieces of that episode before, but I would like to explore more and get into the hermetic nature of that script. That is one of the most hermetic scripts ever. The double thinking mind foolery, the mind freakery that they do in that episode is famous. Why they must write down their best and most evilest mind control and behavior modification tactics somewhere, and whoever wrote that, oh, they got a bonus in their check. And we'll see why I say that. And then the other one is Good Times, Black Jesus. Again, another, and both of them dealing with similar subject matter, aimed at the same audience. And both are the only shows, and I know this as an aficionado of both programs from the time I grew up. I was born in 1973. Good Times started in 1974. Sanford and Son started in 1972. One of them came the year before I was born. The other one came the year after I was born. I tell you, I thought Red Fox was one of my family members. I expected to see Sanford. And but the other one is going to be the Black Jesus episode. And, we're going to look at, again, we always attempt on this channel to go down a rabbit hole that's not been explored. So do not expect the ordinary. Okay, so we're going to look down deep into this thing. We're going to get esoteric and hermetic with it. Okay, so let's see how many folks we got here. We got 75 folks in attendance. 45 have liked. I appreciate all the folks that could hit that like button tonight if you can. I appreciate you. Mr. Shepard said, Dynamite! Jay Is It says, rigged reality. That is the reality we live in, Jay. No doubt. Silk Don said, that Black Jesus was a mean one. You ain't lying. Big Nephew Ronell said, unplug them, distort the audio, speed it up, slow it down slightly if you can so you won't get a copyright strike. See, I don't know how to do that, the way I'm going to be putting it. But I know I can distort the video, which a lot of times that'll protect you better. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it and get to it. But don't worry about that, okay? I'm going to be sure and fight to put it back up if they lock it. So while that fight is going on, it'll be up for a couple months. Okay. See what's going on here. Who did I miss? Scoville 7. Peace and blessings to you. And Kobe Brewster wouldn't be a Shobi without Kobe. CLG says, I love that episode. Just let the episode clip speak for itself. Well, I have to do some speaking because I want to present the the way that I'm looking at things, so things don't get misconstrued and we have less questions concerning the obvious. And so I like to lay things out a certain way. But thank you for joining us this evening. 720 Versatile. Peace and blessings to you. He says they had that hymn, "Give Me That Old Time Religion" back in the day. Right on. Okay. Silk Dunn says every free thought has been covered. There is no freedom to think. Comedy is a way to accept thoughts through laughter. Yeah, comedy is often a way that they use to disarm people so that you will accept taboo thoughts or things that people would gasp at. They turn on the laugh track or the audience applause sign. And over time, like, they did this during Different Strokes. We noticed this as we looked at Different Strokes and Punky Brewster. Things that would seem weird and eerie normally. Even Bill Cosby on the Cosby Show episode, Rudy Sleepover, when he's bouncing all the children on his knee. One of those children happened to be Alicia Keys, but she just got discovered in her 20s, right? But, they'll put on the laugh track or the applause sign in order to disarm the viewer, not the audience so much, but the viewer. Because as you watch those shows over and over again, you get used to laughing when the rest of the people laugh. It's a way, it's a group think trick, and it's influence. Influence and repetition. You've heard the laugh track for so long, you're used to laughing where they want you to laugh. So anyway, and I was trying to fill some time to get more folks in here. P.S. Welcome to you, because I didn't shout you out. Okay, so that's the subject matter for tonight, and that's what we're gonna focus on. Mr. Shepard said he heard Red Fox did a bunch of coke as well as Mr. Pryor. I believe it. I was disappointed when I saw Red Fox's his actual live show. It was an HBO special, and it was not just I knew he did blue comedy, so I expected him to be vulgar, but he was also very sacrilegious and blasphemous, and it was just disappointing. I would have rather thought of him as a good old Fred than that old Red. But that's part of the Hermetic thing too. In one of the Sanford and Son episodes, Red Fox is on the episode. Back then they would do the split screen, and they had Red Fox coming to town for a lookalike contest or something. Somebody told Fred Sanford he should enter, and so they do the Hermetic thing. Or rather, they will plant or implant Hermetic rituals right inside of programs that you watch, whether those programs are television programs or whether they're cinematic programs, what you call movies. It doesn't matter. Either way. CLG says the times when All in the Family was on was a totally different spirit than this present spirit of murder, violence, Satanism, treating our children like commodities, apples and oranges. I agree. Mike, peace and blessings to you. Welcome. He says, and welcome nonsense. Okay, Mike was talking about something totally off subject. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into it at the 30-minute mark here. Fred couldn't stand Julio, says Seven Spirits. Peace and blessings, Seven Spirits. Yes, that's true. He was, that was part of his bigoted character. Again, part of the negative aspects of the old school that they want to bring out and bring forth, so that when it is cast aside, everyone can say good riddance. Same thing they did with Detroit, representing the old school in many ways. It's an old Gothic architectured downtown here that they use to shoot a lot of movies. You wouldn't think that about Detroit, but I pointed out several before. Transformers battle scene is in downtown Detroit from the first Transformers movie. The street signs are even up there. And in the Batman versus Superman movie, when Bruce Wayne pulls up and hops out the ride and looks up and sees Superman and Zod engaged in battle in the sky, he's in downtown Detroit. Or he drives through downtown Detroit to get to that point. But anyway, so, for years they brought out all the negative points. They made sure that folks thought the worst of Detroit and cities like it. And so when those things are then demolished, when they're gotten rid of in some way, shape, or form, then, folks can collectively say, even if they only say so by their subconscious thoughts, good riddance to that place. Wasn't nothing good going on there, no way. So same thing with the old school and the way the old folks believe. Good riddance to the way of, the old folks. And let's get into it now. Okay, I don't know. That's right, Big Nisi Money. He did whip the N-word out several times. Okay. Let's see. Hold on. What's going on? Okay, pansexual. Pan is supposed to mean all. Interestingly enough, when they say a Pan-African, you're talking about a person that embraces all of Africa. So, yeah. Same thing as a trisexual, baby Sister Jessica. Sister Tina Vasquez says, mental conditioning for the ages. Right on. Yojo, a.k.a. Ms. Yo, says, that is stupid. Well, so is most of the things that folks are doing nowadays. But what do you do? I don't have a clue. All right, so which one would you like to start with? Maybe we'll take a vote in case we don't get through both of them tonight, or in case they do something real slick with this new app, with this update. Okay, first come, first served basis. All right, it's going to be Sanford. Okay. I don't know. No, no technical difficulties coming from my end yet. We'll just hold on. As soon as I get this set up, we're gonna see what YouTube start doing. Okay. Yes, Lamont is a preacher in real life, and I could imagine seeing the things that he saw. Red Fox, I know Red Fox. The show that I would show that I wasn't able to get a hold of. I've got it in my archives, but I could not locate it. But it's when Scatman Crothers is on there, and him and Fred end up doing a number on stage. They do a Cab Calloway song, and in the background, all of the musicians that are playing behind them, the house band, they all wear fezzes. And I believe that the club, I know the club was called Club, no, the club was called Club Lucifer in the B.B. King episode. When B.B. King is on there, and Fred and B.B. King end up doing a number, and B.B. King was seeking after Esther. Whew. But anyway, I didn't know BB was blind, but no. But anyhow, and yeah, for folks who don't know, also, this is our show where we focus on things concerning pop culture and things of that nature, and we break those down into spiritual terms. and diffuse any programming that may be left in those um, uh, films or TV shows or songs even. So that's what Saturdays are for. Wednesdays we focus on spiritual war because that's what the team Wednesday comes here for. The team Saturday comes here for this. And that's what it is. So now let's go on here. Sanford and Son, funny, you don't look it. Right on, Big Nisi Money said the Royal Order of the Water Buffalo, the Flintstones. Right on, yes indeed. And along with having a brotherhood on the Flintstones, they were also in contact with an extra dimensional being, the Great Kazoo. So, but yeah, in that episode, they perform at Club Lucifer. No joke. So let's look at this one. Scoville 7 said, I'm sure I was heavily programmed without even knowing it. We all have had to go through some programming. We all have had to break free from some programming if we're honest and diligent about being new creatures in Christ and being transformed by the renewing of our mind. When you have a new mind, you will be transformed. Soldier fatigue in the house. Brother Minister Darian, peace and blessings to you. Sister Keka Kong says, people are consummating with fences and amusement park rides. Trees also. Sad. You ain't lying. Brother Jeffrey Jones in the house. He says the honeymooners were lodge members. Yes, indeed. That's absolutely correct. That's right. They certainly were. So now, maybe if we skip this theme song, we'll throw them off. Right? Okay. And welcome, Brother Jeffrey Jones in the house. Always a pleasure to see you, brother. Brother Jeffrey, another member of our musical family here. Sister Diamond, welcome. Brother Jeffrey says Amos and Andy had the mystic lights of the sea. Wow. Amen. Let's get to it. Okay, we're going to go to the action. Let me pull into the garage. Okay. Let's see how much we can get away with. Oops, hold it. Wait a minute. That'll help us. All right. Okay. Let's make it do what it do.
And goodbye.
I'm sorry, is this part of the junkyard?
This is my living room in which I have some of our finer articles of junk.
I thought so.
May I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Who gave you the idea to come through my door without knocking?
I just assumed this was a place of business, and one usually doesn't knock before one enters a place of business.
Well,
excuse me, maybe you can help me out.
I'll help you out.
I think Martin Lawrence did come from what's happening now. And yeah, this show was produced and written actually as a show about a Jewish father and his son called Steptoe and Son. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Steptoe and Son in the UK. And then, the adaptation of it, they brought in Red Fox and it became Sanford and Son, and that's what it was. But most of the programming was controlled at that time and still is by the Revelations 2:9 cabal of Zionists who are using Kabbalistic magic and other things learned during the high priest's time in Babylon, or during the time of the Israelites in Babylon. The high priests became tainted and tempted by the Babylonian priests and by priests from other pagan realms and nations. But they were enthralled by the magic and this instant gratification. The ability to conjure up a spirit and receive instant help. And so they began to hold a tradition of that amongst themselves to help to better their families and to help to, solidify their places in the world, in a competitive world. They decided to keep among themselves the secrets of this Babylonian magic and to just describe it as Hebrew. This is one reason why we can't trust what we get from those sources today. And we don't need it anyway. Thanks to the Messiah. But let's see here. Let's get to I know when the main part.
And let me ask you a question. What do you see before you? Besides all this junk? You do, huh? Yeah, that's all you see here, right? Junk. Yeah. Nothing else. You don't see nothing else here. Not anything else, but just junk here. Oh, I got it. It's one of those games.
Hold on. Mike Jr. say Rollo Cousin was behind the storyline of that show. Which show, Mike Jr.? And peace and blessings to you, Brother Minister J from Revelation News. And each one shall teach one. Peace and blessings to you. Welcome. Iceland Johnson say, do you see the picture on the wall? Which one? David Teller said Norman Lear stole a lot of ideas from a black man. I can see that. The first Good Times episodes were written by a black man, Michael Evans, who the character is named after, Mike Evans. It was a way to insert something. It was probably in lieu of paying him what all they were supposed to pay him for being the creator of the show, in truth. But they took the show and they did what they wanted to do with it to make it more appealing for the white audiences, especially because he did not write the show with the intent of the Evans family failing every time they attempted to get out of the projects. That was something that would help to keep, again, this was the climate. It was to help to keep white America engaged in the show, because a lot of folks still had underlying racial tensions and prejudices that they don't have nowadays, of course. And, it would be intimidating to see someone encroaching in on what you consider to be your territory. You see how some folks react toward our Mexican brothers and sisters, being industrious and coming over here and getting work and, working hard at their work. Some folks look at that like they still in our jobs. So the philosophy was not very different with black folks then. Yes. So it was more of a draw. It would hold the audience. The audience, again, being the majority white, it would hold their attention. To know that in the end, we ain't got to worry about them. They still in the ghetto. And that may sound crazy, but black psychologists and folks debated about the meanings of Good Times quite a bit. And that was one of the common things that was pulled out of those debates. Okay, Mike Jr. said the episode where Fred and them went to settle the show based on their lives. I think the name of the show was Steptoe and Son. Okay, now that's another Hermetic one, Mike Jr. That's different than when Fred meets Red. That was because of a lookalike contest. But the one that you're talking about, that's another example of the Hermeticism that they do in Hollywood. They incorporate people's lives. Look at Gabriella Sebede and Precious and see the parallel in their lives. Look at Jim Carrey. They will put you through on screen, certain rituals. Okay, we look at it as a scene. Halle Berry went through a ritual, not just a humiliation ritual, but a sex magic ritual with Billy Bob Thornton for Monsters Ball. And there are many other examples of it. But that's just one example of how they will incorporate real life, or they will take realism to a hermetic level. Okay. They took her from not wanting to show her breasts on camera all the way to having sex on camera. That's how the devil like to do it. So, but yeah, that's interesting that some of Rollo's people was behind that. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Right on. I do agree with you. Big Nisi Monty said, I think we've seen real murders too, especially with no-name actors. I wholeheartedly agree, and I wonder if someone wanted to see Brandon Lee snuffed on film. You can't tell me that there's no film of that somewhere. It probably costs a lot of money to get or see a copy. To see a copy, you probably be at the right party. Have mercy. Amen. Okay. All right, y'all. Yes, that's right. Snuff films. I believe that we've seen that on film. I believe that we have seen, ad lib. Ad lib can take on a life of its own in Luciferian Hollywood. I believe we've seen people driven mad just about by doing a film, by the process of acting. Jim Carrey certainly increased in the spirits that had him bound. He increased his possession, or the level of his possession, if nothing else. And it's interesting that before he started coming out with all of these New Age and New World Order and Illuminati statements, prior to that is when Sherry Shriner said what she said about him being the head of the California branch of the church or something, or the national head or whatever. And shortly after that, she passed. So I think that's interesting. But whenever we look at Hollywood, there's layer upon layer of things to draw from one clip or one show. Glad to see you back, Sister Minister T. Right on, Mr. Shepard. He said they said some transformations weren't CG like werewolves, monsters, etc. Now, Dr. York, who was being fed information by the elite and misinformation by the elite. Information to draw in the elect, the black elect, and then disinformation to once you draw them in to throw them off the wrong way. But he would say a lot of things that in hindsight we're saying now, like about the robotoids. One thing he would say that I never would forget is that some of the creatures that they use on film, some of those creatures that they use on film are actual demons. Now, how, I would think to myself, now, how did they get the demon to cooperate and stand there? Would the demon have to stand on his mark? Did he stand on his X and pose? Make sure you get my good side. So, but I can see it now. I understand it now. I do believe that we have seen some real creatures on film. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on to something better. Let's go back. Are y'all ready for Freddy now? New World Rob says recreations, maybe. And I mean, the whole idea sounds ludicrous. But again, when you know that these people behind Hollywood are actually wizards and warlocks, witches, just like the people behind the music business are. And when you realize that they actually do interact with extra dimensional entities, what we believers call demons and devils, it makes it sound less far-fetched that they could conjure one and catch it on film. And I do, and yes, I do wholeheartedly agree, because we have proof that they have modeled some after, or they have recreated demons that they've seen in their visions and dreams. The alien, or the special effects guy behind the alien, or behind the original depiction of the alien, claims that that came to him, right? He was inspired by some spirit. And, how many of them are actually going to say, well, yeah, this is the demon that tormented me in my dreams that I've created or recreated for this film? But I'm sure it has happened. And we have seen reptilians. Right on, Predator. Is that what you're saying, Big Nisi Money? I thought the same thing. Dr. York used to say that the Predator was made after a particular type of alien. He talked the alien talk. Well, now we know to translate that. So supposedly that's an actual demonic being. A hunter. A hunting type of devil. Big Nephew Ronell says, people don't believe in this stuff. That's why they will forever remain lost in the sauce. You never lied. And that sauce is bitter. Laurie Seasoning couldn't save it. Okay. All right, let's get back to this now. This is how we do. Wait a minute. Nope. They don't get us like that. Old Quincy Jones would be calling YouTube. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, this is after he discovers it. Okay, all right. Let's just take it back here to the part that matters. The part that matters is this conversation here. Starts off here, this conversation, when Bubba come in. Okay. All right, you ready? I'll turn off the light, and I'm going to make it big. Let's go. Amen. That's right. Laurie's can't save it. Don't give it to the dog. All right, come on. It might bite you next time you try to feed it.
Hi, Fred. Hi, Bubba. Hey, let me ask you a question. What do you see before you? Besides all this junk? You do, huh? Yeah, that's all you see here, right? Junk. Yeah. Nothing else. You don't see nothing else here. Not anything else, but just junk here. Oh, I got it. It's one of those games. Finding the face hidden in the junk. Esther! Bubba, why don't you go down to the Mayo travel agency and get you a ticket the way your brain has been vacationing? What's the matter with you, friend? What are you so mad about?
You ain't lying, but boy, you know Bubba from the generation that did not endorse sagging. That's the opposite of sagging, ain't it? If sagging had a polar opposite, if there was a polar opposite, a hermetic opposite to sagging, you ain't lying, boy. Like he's about to put him up under his chin. Anyway, but that's how the old men used to do. You see Fred got on suspenders? See? You don't want nobody to see your drawers. You might have had a chocolate chip stain on them.
I'm mad at the world for surrounding me with people that don't see stuff right in front of their nose. Now you and Lamont look at me and my empire, and the only thing you see is an old man in a junk pile. Oh, there's nothing wrong with an old man in a junk pile. Fred, you're an honest man in honest junk. Well, look, maybe I could have been more than a junk man. But I got a lot more than my father had and his father before him. You remember your grandfather? Oh, he passed on before I was born. My grandfather was a slave. I don't know what none of my folks were.
All right, here we go. Here they getting into it. Bubba said, my grandfather was a slave. Fred said, I don't know what none of my folks were. Bad as my grandma. I ain't from Africa, I'm from Tennessee.
One of them might have been a slave, or emperor, or king. You ought to do what that man did who wrote Roots. He traced his family back in order to find out who he was. Who knows, maybe someone in your family was a king. Or a tribal chief anyway. That's right, and if my great-great-great-grandfather was chief, it would make me the great-great-great-grandson of a chief.
That's right.
That would be great, because the great-great-grandson of a chief is still a chief.
Now, good point, big nephew. Right now, he said, I can feel the laugh tracks coming now. The laugh track comes after he makes this revelation to help to bring him out of this feeling of worthlessness and low self-worth, depression, if you will. They begin to have a conversation about their heritage, about the greatness that potentially was before them. And it uplifts these two elders, these two elders. And yet this is where you place the laugh. Proving my point before I even started playing this clip. Here is the laugh. So you're laughing again. You're laughing at their old ideas.
Of what?
That tribe.
That tribe probably was in Africa.
They need me, Bubba. They need their chief.
Look, man, why don't you check and find out for sure who you...
Well, I can't do that, Bubba. See, I saw that guy Haley who wrote Roots on Tonight Show. See, he researched 9 years to find out where it came from.
Now, similar to today, where you have this craze for DNA, you have folks being encouraged to find out their ancestry with Ancestry.com and all these other services. Well, back then you had Roots, which also gave folks that same inspiration. It became a trend and a fad to try to find out who you were. If y'all remember the one episode where Lamont goes through it, and he changes his name to Kalunda. And Fred insists on calling him Calendar. But I'll tell you, if I ever did Sanford and Son, it would be surgical. No one of you has seen as many Sanford and Sons as I have. Why? I own the seasons. That's the reason. Anyway, so you have this push, and it's an overplay for the underlay. The push for a particular people, the people who are least educated in their background, the people who are least connected to their history because they've been displaced or they've been told that their history has been displaced by the slave trade, the end result of that slave trade is that we don't know where we come from. How convenient. This is the narrative. So, long as you have that narrative over people, you can always sell them this idea of, oh, well, we'll help you find. I mean, that's a good way. You can always make money, especially if you never intend on telling them the truth. I was watching one of them DNA shows, and they were pushing those for some years back. The very first one I ever saw was on Oprah. Oprah Winfrey was the person sitting there getting her ancestry done. And it was on DVD. And I just say that to say that now it's such a craze that they've got a regular TV show where they show you folks. I saw Snoop Dogg on there, Calvin Brodus. And Snoop was on there, and I believe he was on there with a white actor or singer or something. And they had more African in them than Snoop did. Snoop looked like a tall, lanky Watusi. But yet, again, just like the Maury Show, I believe, is there for the same thing. To make people believe in this system that they manipulate at will. It's been too many times you have seen in the past times when you was in the world and you got up in the morning, you ain't had nothing to do, you ain't had no job, and you was watching them shows. Too many times you seen the baby look just like the daddy. You say, that's the pappy. And Maury say, you are not the father. And well, I'd lost $100 if I'd have bet on that. So I say that to say that that's another thing. I mean, starts off with the legal system. The legal system is who really pushed our acceptance toward DNA testing. And the OJ case had a big thing to do with that. But I digress. That's right. Right on, Cat 181314 and the lie detector. Right on.
See, at my age, that's a lifetime.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But you don't have to do it the way he did it. You know, there's an ad in the paper every day about a company who will do it for you.
You're kidding. Where?
Here in the paper. Hold a minute. Now look, see? Look, let us trace your background and we will send you your family crest and coat of arms.
My family crest and coat of arms? Bubba, you've done it. How much?
Fill out the application form and mail it in with $25.
$25 for a lousy coat of arms? I can get a whole suit with 2 pair of pants and a vest and umbrella with that kind of money.
Well, it's up to you.
$25 off.
That's right.
$25 to find out if I'm descended from royalty.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that would sure show Lamont who's an emperor and who's a helper. How long did it take to find out?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah, that includes all the research and the time it takes to send this into Burbank.
Burbank?
Yeah, Research City. That's the home base of this big company.
All right, now what else have I got to do?
So there's a few questions to get them started, like how far back can you trace your family?
Well, I think my mother once mentioned we came from North Africa, up near Ethiopia somewhere.
Well, that's good. Now the rest is easy. Name, birth date, and sex.
Well, at least I have a name and a birth date.
You also have sex.
It's been a lot of years, Mama. I'm asking $14 for this lamp, but if you don't think you can afford it, I'll try to find you something else.
That's really very nice, Mr. Sanford, but $14 seems reasonable. You wouldn't consider throwing in a lampshade as well?
Of course I would.
Good.
Well, I've considered it, and the answer is no.
That's great. I love a man with a great sense of humor.
Yeah, and I love a woman with a great pair of legs.
being a young man and ready to get straight to it. Say, are they going to talk about the Israelite theory or mock it? If you watch along with us, you will see the way that they do it. And that's why I want us to watch, so that you can see yourself the way that they do it. Jeffrey Jones says both. Right on. Well said. Let's check it out.
Yeah, it's been a lot of years,
All right, here's your $14.
Oh, that's fine. And here's your lamp. And thank you very much.
You good,
And,
Kobe. You know I love you,
see
man.
Hey, that was great, Pop, the way you handled that. I like that.
Of course, son. You see, why not? I mean, after all, this is my empire, and I know how to run it.
You know something, Pop? I don't even mind you calling it an empire, because for the last month or so, you've been really great here in the house. You've been cleaning up and everything and cooking.
Please enter.
Now, because he's had the idea, and this is interesting, because he has this grand idea that he may come from a people to be respected, he has picked up on the idea that perhaps he should dress different. This ain't how Fred normally dressed, but he got his bow tie on. The bow tie he only put on when he's going out with a date with Fat Wanda or somebody, right? So see, he done spiffied up. Lamont just say he cleaned up the house. So there's an argument to be made for, hey, knowing something about your ancestors' ability to strive can help you to feel more able when all of the odds appear to be against you, or when the word or the myth or um, the philosophies or ideas concerning you are usually negative. You're listless, you're lazy, you're dirty, then you get this idea, well, no, I come from royalty. It may change not just your outward environment, but it may also change you from within. And so again, look at the way that they spin. Watch this reversal maneuver as this show goes on. Uh-oh. Only woman I think might could whoop Reefer in a fight.
How you doing, Aunt Esther?
Hello, Lamont. Fred.
Hello, Esther, and welcome.
What?
Yeah, welcome. It's so good to have you in my home. Now, if you'll stand right there, I'll be right back.
For what?
I'll look you over and tag you. Incoming jump.
Watch it, sucker.
Hey, Pop, dig yourself. Now, you been good for a month. Don't go ruining it. Come in.
Hey, Fred.
Hey, Ruth.
Lamont. Ruth. Mrs. Anderson. Here you go, if I couldn't get this in your mailbox.
That's it. That's it. Is it from the Universal Family Research?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Now listen, go back to your appointed rounds. And if you're waiting for a tip, go back to your disappointed rounds.
Hey, what is it, Pop?
What is it? This box could contain positive proof I'm a king and you're a prince.
What are you talking about, Fred Sanford?
Be patient. Incoming junk should be seen and not heard. I'll let you know shortly.
Hey, come on, Pop. What is it?
Wait a minute. Look at it. Have you eyes but see not? Which would come in handy if you're looking at Esther. See, this is our family crest, son, right here. And look at that crown. I am a king. There it is right there. I've been right all along. See, that's the crown, and right there, that's Ethiopia. That's where my family came from. And right here, see, that's black and white hand intermingle. Whatever that means. And then here's a shield showing that we were great warriors.
With a Jewish star on it.
Okay, now notice this. It's Aunt Esther, the one who is biblically knowledgeable out of the cast of characters, who is the one who points out the hexagram, which is mistakenly known and called the Star of David, by the Goyim, by the instruction of the Revelation 2:9 Zionists, who are deceiving us. They have full knowledge and understanding of the Hermetic nature of that sign, as above, so below. The pyramid pointing down, the pyramid pointing up. And so, that aside, let's talk a little second here about the pride aspect of it. Now, it's a double-edged sword. And it's a thin line and quite a tightrope walk for most brothers and sisters. Most folks who ain't never had no power or no status or no ability to feel and know who they are as a creation of the Creator. Some folks, again, when they find out some information like this, it's like a crackhead winning the lottery. Okay, they can run out like Tyrone Biggums, put an ad in the paper for a $500 crack party. And, that's not the way to go. And of course, that's what Fred's going to do. He's going to go overboard. But I think it's ironic and interesting that some of our brothers and sisters who realize certain things have been hidden from us, roles have been reversed, somebody's sitting in our seat that should not, folks get angry about it. Folks get to feeling prideful about it. And they get to popping their collar. And pride comes for the fall. It caused Lucifer to fall. He's smarter than all of y'all. So you want to avoid pride at all costs. The same way that a man who's 6'7", and got some sense, don't feel no more pride when someone tells him, "Ooh, you tall." he might just about get tired of hearing it because he knows it's true. Amen. And that is a tall order, but not beyond something that you can do. All right, let's see. Spring rain in the house.
I wonder what that means.
That means, Fred Sanford, if I knew my Bible, and I know my Bible, you are a descendant of a king of the Jews. And if you're a king, you're also Jewish.
Jewish?
Gee, that's funny. You don't look it.
I'm Jewish. You hear that, Elizabeth? Elizabeth, honey, I'm Jewish. This is it. This is a big one. I'm coming to join you, honey. I'll be the one with the chicken soup and the matzo ball.
And one last thing here, and I'm going to let it play for a minute. The representation of Judaism is the representation of Zionist Judaism. Okay. The Yiddish, the traditions of the chicken soup. Excuse me. The Americanized Jew ideals, the ideals that people have from Zionism, and they attach them to what should be Hebrewism, but they attach it to Judaism. And so again, we have to be very, very cautious about trying to reconnect to that by getting the information from the folks that got it on lock. So this tells me this, that the way of the Hebrew today would be something natural. In other words, there would be a people who have a natural way about them that lines up with what the word said about the Israelites. And you would have to know those people by judging them by what the word said. And, there would be no reaching back to another culture's interpretation of what Israel was. I mean, we can't trust anything about it. We can't trust their calendars and when they say that it's this feast day or that feast day. So then what do? You follow the way of the Messiah. The Messiah did not ignore all of the feast days, but he certainly did not keep all of the Mosaic law. This is why he is an example that is given to us of how to walk the walk of the law. And let's continue with this. I'm done.
It's impossible. I can't be Jewish. How could it be?
That's what the scroll says, Fred.
Who ever heard of black Jews?
I did. Didn't you ever hear Falashas?
Sure, Lola Falasha.
Okay, I can't let it go. Then there's always this push on focusing on the Falasha. Both shows are going to point you to the Falasha as if there was this one group that produced Israelites of a black hue, of what we call black nowadays. As if the movie Color of the Cross did the same thing. Like there was this one sect, the Nazarene sect was black. And the Color of the Cross did such a terrible Hermetic reversal and did such a bang-up job at trying to program folks into believing that the Jewish world of old looked like the Jewish world today. And that's the similar game that both Sanford and Good Times show is going to play.
She's one of my favorites. I'd like to right over here to see my scroll.
That's Falasha, not Falana. They're a group of blacks from Ethiopia that happen to be Jewish.
Well, I know they're blacks in Ethiopia, but where does that Jewish part fit in, and where does the crown come from?
Well, some people think the philosophies come from the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba.
Oh, King Solomon from the Bible. The guy who had an argument with those two mothers took their kids split.
Something like that, fool. I don't understand how the wisest of men beget the biggest turkey in once.
Kosher turkey. That's the biggest kosher turkey.
Now, wait a minute. Now, let me straighten this thing out. Now, you didn't...
Now, again, the Falasha are the default black Hebrew tribe that they will point you to when you get to sniffing around wondering, well, about the state of Israel when it was created, the Ashkenazi and the Khazar versus the original Israelite, the story of Moses being able to fool a African king. That's what a pharaoh is. Being able to fool an African king into thinking that he is his little baby boy. Imagine King Jaffer looking at his grandbaby, and that grandbaby is white as Jerry Seinfeld. That wouldn't work out now, would it? So, yeah, but the Falasha are this one group that they will say, oh yeah, there are black Jews. Oh, by the way, yes, there's one. There's this one little tribe in Ethiopia, the Falasha. And that's deflection 101.
I could be a king, right?
It's possible.
Well, I was right all along. Now all I have to decide is whether I like being Jewish.
Wait a minute, Bob. You're only a king if you admit that you're Jewish. If you decide you're not Jewish, then you're not a king.
Yeah, I see what...
Hold it. Hold the phone. Did you hear that? You're only a king if you admit that you're Jewish. If you don't admit that you're Jewish, one more again.
Esther, I'm glad you know so much about the Bible and religion and all that stuff.
Why?
Because you'll be able to help Lamont study for his bar mitzvah. And long live the know so much about the Bible and religion.
Wait a minute, Bob. You're only a king if you admit kosher turkey. That's the biggest kosher turkey.
Here it is.
Now, wait a minute. Now, let me straighten this thing out. Now, you admitting I could be a king, right?
It's possible.
Well, I was right all along. Now all I have to decide is whether I like being Jewish.
Wait a minute, Bob. You're only a king if you admit that you're Jewish. If you decide you're not Jewish, then you're not a king.
Mouthful.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Esther, I'm glad you know so much about the Bible and religion and all that stuff.
Why?
Because you'll be able to help Lamont study for his bar mitzvah. And long live the king!
Come in.
Hey, hi, Lamont.
Oh, hey, Bubba.
Hey, is it true? Did Fred find out that he's a king?
Well, he's got something that says he's possibly related to a king, maybe.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. Is he home?
Yeah, he's upstairs.
Yeah?
Hey, Pop!
That's Sire.
Oh, forgive me, sire. Bubba's here.
Well, look at you, Fred.
Fred, the full name is King Frederick G. Sanford, and the G stands for gefilte fish.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about being a king, and unless you treat me like one, I shall not name you Sultan of Central Avenue.
What are you doing now?
Take to go shopping.
Shopping for what?
For what? Some kosher food and a stethoscope.
What's a stethoscope for?
It's the beginning of my collection of equipment for Lamont here, so when he gets out of medical school, he'll have it.
His son, the doctor.
Yes. See you, doctor.
Kanka Khan said, I don't understand that part. Only a king if he's Jewish. Okay. Because the only royalty, well, in the premise of the show, of course, it's saying that Fred has traced his lineage back to potentially to some royal Jewish line. And so Fred said, well, I like the royal part, but I got to decide on whether or not I want the Jewish part. And Lamont told him it don't work that way. You're only a king if you're Jew. And it's interesting because we know that this was written by Zionists. So what the Zionists are admitting is that, again, like we know, they knew that Jesus was the King of Kings. And they still did what they did to him. And they're still in denial of him, still to this day. And they are still in the process of deceiving the people who really most resemble those Israelites. And so it was a Hermetic line. It had two sides to it. It had the one obvious side. The obvious side was what I first explained. Well, you can't be royal and not take the Jewish part too, because, that's the reason that you're royal. You're, supposedly connected to some royal Jewish line. So that's the exoteric. The esoteric is, unless a black man can understand that he's a Jew, he won't be of royalty. And that's to all those brothers and sisters out here, all the Pan-Africans who might be listening, folks who always want to use that tied line. It came out back when I was listening to KRS-One and X-Clan and Public Enemy. That old tired line when I was listening to Poe Righteous Teachers. We was kings and queens. And I believed it then. I believed it then when I was a child. I thought like a child. I tell you, I took my graduation pictures in my Professor X beads, red, black, and green, you know what I mean? And yet you never stop to think, well, if everybody was kings and queens, then who was the servants? They want to push us into pagan Africa and away from Israel. And they push you away from Israel primarily by pushing you away from the Bible. And by allowing for things to be done in the name of Christianity that would put a stain on it and that would drive the people, the people who the book is about, away from the book. The people whose heritage is locked and hidden in the book. The people looking for that heritage. They don't know who they are. They want to call themselves colors and countries and everything except for this tribe, because they won't look inside the Bible due to the fact they've been pointed away, oftentimes by Oive. They've been pointed away from Israel and toward the direction of pagan Africa. And that's where they want to keep us mentally and spiritually. Otherwise, we would know that we are truly royalty. The lines have fallen us. The lines have fallen upon us in goodly places. We have a goodly heritage. And it's one of the reasons why, as far as this country goes, certainly, but an argument could be made for, why the whole world marvels at this tribe. The way they praise, the way they pray, the way they preach, the way they do things that some say have supernatural origins, the music, the dancing, things of that nature. All things, again, evidence of the creativity of the Creator. And so it's important to keep this people from acknowledging that they're Jewish, acknowledging that they're Jewish, or acknowledging the Jewish heritage that their people can claim. Acknowledging that would allow for them to be royalty. And in a land where they're supposed to be the serfs and the servants, that can't be had. So this is when Fred walks into the Jewish shop. And again, remember, this is Fred becoming a Jew, converting to Judaism, not Hebrewism. Note the difference. The gefilte fish, again, these American Jewish traditions, these Zionist traditions that we mistakenly credit to Judea.
help you?
Oh, that's all right. I'll just browse around. You finish your lunch. I don't want to interrupt you.
That's very thoughtful.
Yeah. I bet that's a very ethnic dish there.
That's right.
Yeah, well, what is it?
Chow mein.
I thought you wasn't allowed to eat that stuff.
I've got some vegetables and noodles I cooked myself. It's kosher.
Don't you eat corned beef and chopped liver?
What are you talking? That stuff will give you terminal heartburn.
I've been eating it all day. I'm trying to acquire a taste for it.
Are you a masochist?
No. I just found out I was Jewish.
You didn't have enough trouble?
Now, here's more psychological manipulation and trickery. Fred tells the man, I found out I was Jewish. And the man looks up and says, what, you didn't have enough trouble? Playing off this false idea that earned reparations to a people who are, in fact, Eastern European, but who have been declared and validated by the United Nations. Again, another part of this Luciferian agenda to confuse the chosen of God as well as the elect. Because guess what? If Gentiles and if the elect and if the other nations don't cry out and don't say anything, this disenfranchised and muted nation of people certainly won't be listened to. And everything is being done at every stop to try to keep them distanced from this heritage. Movies like Black Panther that push you back into this mindset of Mother Africa instead of Father Yah.
You see, I traced my heritage and found out my ancestors were Galoshes.
That's Galoshes.
Right. Since I'm so new at being Jewish, I wonder if you could set me up a beginner's kit.
If you really want to be a convert, you got to feel it in your heart.
I feel something, but how do I know it's not the corned beef?
Does it feel genuine?
Yeah.
Does it feel strong?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel warm all over?
Yeah.
It's the corned beef.
Can you help me?
All right. Why don't you start by reading this book?
And now to the point of Africa and Israel, from my studies and my understanding, when I was into my Pan-African phase, the Suez Canal is the reason that we have a quote-unquote Middle East. If not for the man-made Suez Canal, again, another attempt to separate black from Israelite. If not the Suez Canal, there would be no Middle East. That part was connected to Africa. That's my understanding. So now, and again, that's what I read years ago. Haven't checked and seen if it's changed, Okay. Mandela effect ain't the only reason things change. They change things because out with the old, in with the new. So when a certain generation is gone, the things that they knew goes with them. If those things aren't documented. Okay. Right, Middle East, middle of what? Right, it's like I said, middle right, middle left. No, it's right or it's left. It's east or it's west. Where's the Middle West? If it's a Middle East, where's the Middle West? Anyway, what do I know?
This is the training manual?
Well, you could say that. It's a history of our people. It explains the laws and traditions of our religion.
Yeah, it looks like a lot to learn. Where do I start?
I got an idea. Why don't you start by coming with me to synagogue? Our Sabbath begins at sundown on Friday.
Well, that's tonight.
You're learning fast.
Yeah, but see, the only thing, if I pay for this book, I won't have no money to put in the collection plate for the bingo game.
We don't have a collection plate and a bingo.
No collection plate and no bingo. How do you raise money?
Once a year, the members of our congregation pledge to make a donation.
Pledge.
It's the same as a promise.
You mean all you have to do is to promise to give some money once a year?
That's right.
Hey, that's a great system. I can't wait to read the book.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it. That'll be $9.95. Is that by cash or by charge?
By pledge.
Let's see here. Right on. Brother Jeffrey said how to fix the Goyim for dummies. Right on. Scoville 7 say show Fred the Talmud. Yes. Sister Dinah say with a lot of secret books. Mm-hmm. Right on. Mm-hmm. Right. The alchemical symbols as above, so below. Yes, it is the hexagram is half the pyramid that Jay-Z throws up. You know, the first time I ever saw that thrown up, and you know, we've got Hitler throwing it up. It's the Cohen hand sign. It's the Cohen hand sign. A ceremonious hand sign used by Hebrew priests of Babylon. Used by the Hebrew priests who had been influenced in Babylon. That's the reason why it's still used today. It's one of those things brought back from Babylon. What is the rock symbol, which is half a pyramid or a triangle? The first time I saw it used was in Nas' video for It Ain't Hard to Tell. And Nas was not a member of Rockefeller. Rockefeller Records didn't exist. But Nas throws it up in that video. So he been with the skit. He been with the magic. And yes, Sister Roti says Hermetic, a definition. The Hermetic is the as above, so below, the belief in duality, the belief that we have to be a little evil as well as a little good. That's why Drake gave out the money that his record label allocated for him to give out. It was a way of him fulfilling some obligation for good deeds after having done so many bad deeds. There's a similar idea in Islam also. I had a friend who he would act a fool, wild out, fight, get into it, tear up stores and everything when he was drunk, and then after he get sober again, he'll be repentant. He'll be a repentant, devout Muslim. And then he would go around trying to find homeless people to give money to and go to the restaurant and buy them dinners and go drive around and give them dinners. It'd be nice if he didn't have to get drunk and tear up everything before he decided to do that now. But I digress. No. I'm not at all coming down on you, Sister Rhodey. But yeah, let me just be sure that I do make it clear. Yeah, the Hermetic is when you see the two triangles together as the hexagram. Here, let's come out of this for a second. That's a Hermetic symbol. When Jay-Z and Beyonce dropped that trash video that was aptly named, because that's about what it was worth. When they dropped that trash video inside the Louvre, which I do believe is made with 666 something, right? It's got 666 is a huge part of the Louvre's design, right? The pyramid. But in there, they show several pictures of Hermes in that video. And Hermes is the representative of Hermes is also Gemini, and we believe to be the leader of the rebellion from Mount Hermon, where the fallen angels first landed. And Hermes is or Hermetic magic, or Hermesticus thrice great, or Hermes thrice great, or Thoth. These are all representations of this spirit or of this fallen angel whose thing is trickery and entertainment simultaneously. Hermes. But if we look at the hexagram, let's look at the Hermetic hexagram. That's the one where the wizard is looking into the water. It should show up anyway. But, okay, well, let's just look at a basic hexagram. If you look at a basic hexagram, it's hermetic through and through. This is appropriate. Can't see that as good. Oh, yes, okay. Even better. See, they have this one labeled as above, so below. Sometimes you'll see the one with the wizard's faces. There's a wizard looking into a pond, and he sees his reflection, and it makes the hexagram. So it is to represent a little bit of positive nature and a little bit of negative nature. Or not positive and negative, because we all have that, but being equally evil and good. And good is relative. Holy and evil is the proper opposites, but you can't be holy and evil at the same time. So they profess to be evil, but they do good deeds. Masons, Shriners build hospitals for the same reason. So that's the Hermetic thing, where you have this pyramid up for the good and the pyramid down for the bad. And it's representative of the double-minded man, who is Hermes or Gemini, the twins. Just real quick on that. Okay, Hermes, Gemini. Same one. And Thoth. Hermes, Gemini, and Thoth. And Thoth is the deity over magic and communication. Folks who are into astrology will say that when Gemini is retrograde, or excuse me, when Mercury is retrograde, that communication is in peril. There will be issues with communication. You see the staff also with the two snakes intertwined, representative of that same twin concept or that same duality concept. The number 11, also representative of that same concept. Okay? So now, when we say the hermetic nature of this episode, look at how it's taking one direction. Still, the whole time it's a hermetic direction, because here is a man, for all intents and purposes, here is the real Jew looking at the Eastern European or the Ashkenazi or the Khazar imposter for guidance as to how to be a Jew. That's deep. And yet he's not asking for guidance on how to be a Hebrew, which the man couldn't teach him that anyway, but he's asking for guidance on how to be the type of Jew that Sammy Davis Jr. was. When people make the joke about black Jews, another thing they can point to is Sammy Davis Jr., and I maintain that's why he is that guy. And that's, I don't know how long he had been without an eye. I don't know. So let me stop there. I'm not going to accuse him of doing the Fetty Wap, which I wholeheartedly believe Fetty Wap did it, just like the singer. What was the singer's name? Houston. Right? That lost an eye. I think that was his name. So, but I digress. And I thank y'all folks who are hanging in there with us tonight. I thank you. 146 folks watching. We've got a full house. 95 liking. Again, if you can give that like a good strike, I appreciate it for showing your appreciation. And let's continue.
Hello, Grady? Did you hear anything from Pop yet? Okay, well, give me a call the minute you do, okay? Okay. Hello? Oh, hey, Rollo. No, I haven't heard anything. He hasn't checked in either, huh? Okay, well, ask your friends to keep cruising the neighborhood for me. Okay, buddy, bye-bye.
Any words of mine?
Oh, I guess you haven't heard anything either, huh?
No, and I looked places I never would have looked.
Where? Where?
I went into bars, go-go dance halls, one massage parlor.
That's true. You went into a massage parlor?
For a half hour.
Okay, hold it. Hermeticism right there. Somebody had brought it up earlier. LaWanda Page. I know I saw Brother Jeffrey Jones say how vulgar her comedy was. I think a lot of folks know that. Even if you watch her on a roast, she roasts the mess out of Dean Martin and them all while they're pawing and clawing on her like they find her to be something attractive and sexy. And LaWanda Page, the woman, attempted to try to portray a sexy woman because she came from the go-go houses and the burlesque. That's what they used to do back in the day. They didn't hop on the pole and slide down, slide around, and pop it and lock it and drop it like it's hot. Back then, they had a much more mild form of gentleman's entertainment, and she was with that. She was in that, and her and Fred supposedly known each, or her and Red Fox known each other since they was 14. But here's the Hermeticism right here. She plays this church lady, right? Always walking around with the Bible, always telling you what the Lord say, always trying to get Fred to open up his house for her Bible studies and meetings. And yet, do you know who always brought the weed on the set? Demond Wilson. Demond. Take the D off his first name. His first name is Demon. I'm sure a lot of things went through his mind when he was playing this role. And if you listen to his testimony, which I believed, it really did torment his soul to be on this show. He said most of the time that we watching Sanford and Son, he said he was high. And he said that they was high off marijuana mostly, but the marijuana was always brought in by LaWanda. So here she plays good old aunt who, she's a holy roller Christian soldier. But in reality, she is, her and Mom's Baby. She's worse than Mom's Baby. She is the voice that you hear on 2 Live Crew records. The voice of the woman talking junk. Did DJ Mr. Mixer be scratching? That's LaWanda Page. On all your old 2 Live Crew songs. Just about. And the rest of the Laugh Records crew. It was a whole crew. When you see Fred with his crew, Bubba, Skillet, Leroy, and all the rest of them, they all was part of the Laugh Records crew. And they would make records like Dolomite records, comedy records with scenarios and stuff in them. And that's what 2 Live Crew would take them little sayings from. They little comedy skits that would be on record.
Why?
It took them that long to get the crook out of my leg. But they're very talented, Lamar.
No luck on Fairfax Avenue.
Why would you look for him on Fairfax Avenue?
Well, because that's the Jewish section of town, and Pop said he was going to go shopping for some Jewish stuff. Maybe he didn't go at all.
Oh, he went.
Well, how do you know that, Bubba?
The storekeeper remembered him.
How did the man know it was my pop, Bubba?
Well, because there probably wasn't too many black men in a kosher butcher shop demanding chicken fat on credit because he was the king of Ethiopia. And by the way, I went by that place in Burbank where they made the crest.
Oh, you mean Research City?
Yeah, and you were right. The crest is a phony.
Mm-hmm.
They got 10 different designs that they send to anybody that writes in. It's a real ripoff, Lamont.
Poor Fred. I hate to see the look on his face when he find out he's been dethroned.
Yeah, poor little lost wandering Jew.
Come on, Bubba, knock it off. Hey, Pop, where have you been?
Patience, my son, patience.
Now we come to the payoff. Now watch the reversal. See, one thing too about a sitcom was in 30 minutes time, you could change people's minds from being on one side of an issue to another side of an issue within 30 minutes or less without the commercials. We're at 19 minutes and 57 seconds in. Now, pay attention. Check it out. I see you, Brother Scotty. SK in the house. Ready? Right. 23 minutes or less. They can change your mind.
As our sages tell us, it is better to ask softly and with care than to shout like a dummy.
Where have you been? I was so worried I got sick.
Kobe, you hit the nail on the head. Kobe said, messing with our emotions. Give us something, then take or break something to us. Now, you asked what the episode was going to do. That's what it's going to do. I just want to tell you. So now, here we go. I'm going to let it ride out. 3 minutes left.
Where have you been? I was so worried I got sick.
Now we even.
Pop, where have you been?
In the synagogue. Meet Sam Gittleman.
How are you? Can I get you something to eat or drink?
No thanks. You're the son.
Yes, that's right. I'm
Yes.
your son.
Your father tells me you're a wonderful son.
That's nice.
And you're the friend. Yeah, I'm the friend. Your friend tells me you're a wonderful friend. That's nice. And you're the sister-in-law.
I'm the sister-in-law.
How do you do?
I see you two really got to know each other, didn't you?
Yeah, and you know what I found out?
Wait a minute, before you go making a fool out of yourself, we checked on that research company in Burbank, Research City. You're not a king. And you know you're not Jewish.
That's what I found out.
You did?
That's right. See, a lot of people were ripped off, and they came into Mr. Gittleman's store here, and he told me all about that phony company.
The hard-hitting lines. You're not a king, and you know you're not Jewish. Laugh track in place. Jewish, real, quote-unquote, Jewish man there to validate what Lamont is saying. Case closed. Fred is an idiot. Him and Bubba didn't know what the hell they was talking about. Y'all is niggas from Africa. Get back on the boat.
And they came into Mr. Gittleman's store here, and he told me all about that phony company.
Well, you certainly seem to be taking it well.
I am, son. You see, I had a very good conversation with my friend, Mr. Gittleman, and for the first time, I learned that there are many philosophers living in New York City, and they got their own synagogue in Harlem.
That's right. And they are as truly black as they're Jewish.
And not only that, I learned that we have a lot in common with Jewish people. See, first of all, they were slaves too.
Dope! Poor Fred. Now, Red Fox is doing his job. He's earning his Luciferian dollars. Red Fox wasn't no stupid man. He's playing a stupid man. Smart men play stupid men the best. He understands that he's being used to help to tear down an idea. He's being used to help to deflect everybody toward Falasha is the only black Jews. He's being used to help to keep up this facade that has forever married the civil rights movement to the Zionist movement. That, oh yeah, we have so much in common. We've both suffered slavery. And that is hogwash. Because this man is not from the tribe that suffered slavery in the Bible, like he's portraying to be. What Deuteronomy, what the curses would say was that, this individual here was enslaved twice. The tribe represented by this man was twice enslaved in Egypt, and then again in these United Snakes of America and other colonies. So it's a totally ludicrous notion that he's about to go through. But listen, check out the Hermeticism.
In Egypt, 3,000 years ago.
I could have told you that, Fred. Or you could have learned it for yourself if you bothered to pick up a Bible.
Thank you, Esther, for your contribution to this religious discussion. In common with Jewish people. See, first of all, they were slaves too. In Egypt, 3,000 years ago.
I could have told you that, Fred.
And she's misinformed because, of course, she goes to Pastor Pokechop's church. And so he's not going to teach them anything empowering. Pastor Pokechop is on the same payroll as the gefilte fish man over there. And as Fred. They all are part of the agenda to make sure that we viewers who watch and are of the demographic that's being aimed at here in this particular program. Now, we've looked at lots of programs aimed at different demographics. But this particular program is aimed at a particular demographic. And, You just have to take note of what all is being said here. The bottom line is to get this idea off your mind. And they use each one of these people as representatives of different walks of life. She represents the church sect and their point of view on it. Well, yeah, them Jews that look like him is the chosen people. Yeah, Fred. All you had to do was open your Bible and it had told you.
You could have learned it for yourself if you bothered to pick up a Bible.
Thank you, Esther, for your contribution to this religious discussion. Now, why don't you close your eyes in prayer and walk out there in the traffic?
You know, the Jews and blacks do have a lot in common. I hope their similarities will bring us closer together. I'm glad to meet you all.
And that's why the NAACP and other civil rights movements were able to be controlled by the Zionist Jew representative who come in and say, oh, we have a lot in common, except we've got a lot of money and power, so we can help your movement. When in reality, the intention is not to help this downtrodden individual come up. You're not helping the movement because you want to help the person come up. You're helping the movement because it's in your best interest. You can keep these Negroes away from your spot, and you can remain in power using Kabbalistic magic, blood sacrifice rituals, using the blood of children. The moil is most disgusting. It has nothing to do with Israel in truth, or Hebrewism in truth. It's one of those Judaic things brought forth from the time of the high priest in Babylon. It was the high priest who kept the traditions, the high priests and scribes that worked under them. And they were influenced, to say the least, by the priests from surrounding areas and in places where they were held captive. So here you have the Jewish man here, the Eastern European playing the role of an Israelite, who is going to summarize everything just right for the night.
In common. I hope their similarities will bring us closer together. You know, the Jews and blacks do have a lot in common. I hope their similarities will bring us closer together. I'm glad to meet you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Fred, good night.
Good night. You know, I like that old guy.
Yeah, I like the old guy too.
You just met him.
No, I meant you.
Sorry you're not a king, Fred.
Oh, that's all right, Bubba. It was great just being king for a day.
Yeah.
By the way, I learned that Bubba is a Yiddish word for grandmother.
No kidding, Fred?
No kidding, Grandma.
And did you learn that Esther was a Jewish queen? The most beautiful queen that ever was.
Well, somebody lied.
No, they didn't. There's a whole story in the Bible all about me.
Oh, yeah, I remember now. Samson slew the Philistine with your jawbone.
Settle for not being king. Let Esther chase you around, swinging her purse. It's all over. Your whole idea of self-worth and everything crushed you back to reality, back to life. You're nothing but a junk man, and you about to get whopped upside the head with a Bible-filled purse. What an ending. What a way to go out like a sucker. And that's that. All right. So, yep, back to being a simpleton. You was having some deep thoughts there, you and Bubba. They must have put something in the ripple. And it didn't last very long. It wore off. Now, Okay, now I'm having some issues keeping my thing plugged in here. Okay, let's see what people have to say here. We had 10% on the phone, and it's plugged in. Okay, let's see what people have to say. Big Nephew Renell says, when you think about it, there was no reason for that Jewish guy to come home with Fred, but to say what the script said. Excellent. That's just not checkers level thinking. That's what I'm talking about, Sharp and Knives Crew. Without a doubt. That was the only reason for him to have a good excuse or reason to actually come in the house. Fred always come in the house by himself. And also, we can add to that to show the solidarity between the Jew and the black man. Right? Sister Cocoa Puff says, Yo, Joe, a lot of North Africans are so ashamed to be associated with Africa. They will say the Middle East before they'll just say Africa, like it hurts their soul. Wow. Interesting. Scoville 7 said that was the teaching moment. Right on. That was the moment, right. And oftentimes the teaching moment in a sitcom is the moment when they're trying to make sure that they plant the seed, the idea of, the grand idea that is the bottom line, what they want you to get out the episode. At the end of the day, for it's all over now, and somebody had asked this too, yes, we said that during this time period, this, again, Sanford and Son came out the year before I was born, 72. Good Times came out the year after I was born in 74. And in that time, you had this big push. There's even an episode where Lamont goes through it for everybody to find out who they came from. Remember, Lamont changed his name. Remember I said that? Okay. So, yes, there was a push for that, just like you see today. Okay. Black Panther played off of the desire to know where you are, and it's something supernatural to it. To know where you're from. And you know that there's something supernatural to it, but you just can't quite put your finger on it. And so they want to make sure to keep you away from what could really empower you, what could, more importantly, save your soul, what could help you work out your soul salvation with fear and trembling, what could help to keep you from being deceived by your brothers and sisters who have been deceived into disrespecting the Bible and the Messiah, and into disrespecting the way of the elders who knew much more about simple and simply important things than we do. We know a lot about complex and meaningless things. We have more useless information than a Jeopardy championship. And yet we like Bokeem Woodbine in life. We can't get right. Amen. So now let's look at Good Times, a little taste. And again, I thank folks who are able to hit that like button. I appreciate you showing that you appreciate what we do. Okay. So let's look at some more comments, and I'm going to queue up the next one, which is probably the one that's going to get us got, because they do not have this episode on YouTube. That is the Black Jesus episode. Last time I checked, they didn't have it on. So yeah, peace and blessings, hear me out, and peace and blessings and welcome, Brother Christopher Holland, and peace and blessings and welcome, Sister Julie V from our teaching family. Welcome. Okay, now, let's see what else folks want to say. Mr. Shepherd said we need to chop it up. Well, pull out your Ginsus. Or drop it in the Ninja. Let's get it going. Let's chop it up. Any thoughts, as opposed to me scrolling up and down and trying to find something? Any closing thoughts in that, or comments? Kobe Brewster says, I believe Black Panther was a part of the Illuminati in the comics. I need to look it up again. Yes, in my Black Panther expose, I was sure to point that out. he does become a member of the Illuminati in the comics. In the comics, the Hermetic inversion, the switcheroo, is that the Illuminati are good guys that use their power to help to set things straight when the forces of evil try to cause chaos. Sister Shay Tripollet says it's a reason why black people dominate sports, rap, and entertainment. And lesser known things too, things that aren't as celebrated in this culture, bread and circus culture that we live in. That's what folks pay the most attention to. But a little deep digging, and you'll find that folks who are leading innovators in inventions and in science and in technology, are also, of that same ethnicity. But folks know that, and it's the sad part is that society won't show that. Though folks know that, and so when society doesn't show a thing, again, we're in a programming land. If they continue to program folks, to believe that we're just ghetto-born children or slave-reborn children, then we're doing ourselves and our history a disservice, and the God who gave us that history at the same time. So yeah, it's not ever about pride, but somebody lied, and scratch a lie, find a thief. Somebody tried to steal something from us with this lie, and it's devastated my community. Brothers and sisters don't know who they are, and they are so far from God, and they really wholeheartedly believe that it's some kind of trick to hold us back. Reading that Bible, that's going to hold us back. I saw several young brothers today walking around with Ankh medallions on. It's a new trend in the city. That, like I say, we did it back in the late 80s, early 90s. Now I'm seeing them Ankhs again coming back out. So, yep. That's right. Silk Dunn said most well-off black or black leaders are Masons. Most of them belong to a fraternal group called the Boule. There are black ones. There are Asian ones. There are, of course, Jewish ones. And that's what it is. Okay. Okay, 720 is a friend here. Yep, y'all, you be careful who you're firing at. 720 is on our team. Okay. Sometimes things don't translate well in text form. Now this one, I'm just going to try to play this one. Now I'm going to be quiet. Oh, the show Amen. Certainly. I wrote down some stuff about the show Amen. A lot of stuff. There's Hermeticism in there. We could watch an Amen episode. I know that's on YouTube. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Amen and 227. I mean, I'll just say it. Amen and 227. And while I'm saying it, I'm leafing through the pad I wrote it in, because I didn't intend on this end tonight. We would have enough meat with Sanford and Son and Good Times. But Amen and 227 both came on the Sabbath. They both were Saturday programming. Saturday programming, again, aimed at this group of people who don't have a tribe. They don't know where they're from. They're encouraged to follow their idols in Black America, the people that they put on the front of Ebony magazines and Jet magazines. They're encouraged to follow these people, and the black leaders who stand in front of them and talk like Messi Jackson and Al Sharpton. A little bit, Unbeknownst to them, these individuals are members of the Brotherhood. These are the black agents put in place by the multicolored New World Order. I know it's NWO, but the W don't stand for white. Okay? I know you like to give the white man all the power you can, but no. The Illuminati is multicultural. And amen. Yeah, 227 added up. What's 2 plus 2? 4 plus 7, 11. Hermeticism. 227, we could examine it and see the Hermeticism all in it. Amen. Also the same thing. And again, we can look at the pagan usage of amen as amen. And we can look at Deacon Fry or Sherman Hemsley as a sodomite deacon. And we can look at Clifton Davis as a sodomite minister. A real minister in real life, but every bit a Hollywood sodomite. Again, at least judging by his energy. Sherman Hemsley came out. I'm sure Clifton Davis didn't come out because of his involvement in the clergy. But that doesn't change the fact that you know when something is out of sorts. You know when something is out of sorts. So you look back at those shows, you'll see that. Then you got Thelma always throwing herself on him. And what the word says is that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So, of course, she was out of order in doing that. And, I mean, again, we'll add that on to some more black shows, to another day when we do black shows. But now let's get to this good times at 2 hours in. Yes, Thelma did finally get him in the end. Right, Thelma got him in the end. No, not Thelma from Good Times. Yeah, Thelma from Good Times was pretty. I'm talking about 227. Amen. What's her name, Thelma? And Amen. Deacon Fry's daughter. Anyway, she ended up playing on the Wayans Brothers show. All right. Thank you, Sister Dinah. All right. Both of them Thelmas. Okay, now let's look at the fine Thelma, Mike Jr. No, not for that reason.
From Television City in Hollywood.
The irony is the boy from Amen is the voice of Bumblebee. What? Bumblebee don't be talking. He just samples things from the radio, I thought. Anyway, I digress. Thelma, right on, Jeffrey Jones. Pick it up. Good one. Nisa Love, you didn't hear that. And yes, Big Nephew Rondell, Clifton was in That's My Mama. First. That's where he gained his fame. And, he seemed a little sweet in the britches then to me. But hey, and folks get out there in Hollywood, a lot of money is waved in your face. You done took cemetery and penitentiary chances to get out there. And Mr. Schottenheimer wants to put you on the casting couch. It's a whole lot of brothers who would cuss him out. And it's more brothers than you know it is who would consider it and give him a call back later. And, those are the ones who are exalted. Those are the names we know. The Pautiers. I mean, again, that's why you see this gay tendency in all of them. You hear Quincy Jones talk, you hear the fruitiness in him. The way he hold his mouth. He try to have some gangster about himself. I think because he's from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. But still, you hear that fruitiness. Once you go gay, it twists your mouth a certain way. Okay? And he got that twist in his mouth. He got that twist and that lisp. He got that twist and that lisp. But Anyway, I digress. But yeah, I mean, and what does he do? He comes out and he tells what some more sodomites are doing. All of them witches, and some of them something that rhymes with it. All right. Let's see what the Evans family is doing before James get on us. I'm not talking about you, Big Nephew Ronell, or Brother Minister V in the place to be. In case he's here, Brother Minister V, shout out to you. And anybody else I might have forgotten to or didn't see, because I haven't looked back through in some time. Peace and blessings to you, Sister Minister Rebecca, if you're in the house. Welcome. Now, let's run this back a little bit. Now, remember, one notable thing about Michael's character in the early shows, as the shows went on, he lost his militance. He started thinking about girls. He started thinking he was a lady man. He also came out as a sodomite. He came out as a sodomite. But now, little Michael is named after the show's writer. The show's writer was himself a militant black man. And so that is why he named this little boy, this character, after him. The show's writer, the black writer or originator, reportedly of the show, was named Michael Evans. And the way that they fired John Amos was really cold-blooded. You have to hear him tell it. Look it up sometime. He told it on Sway in the Morning, and he also told it on some SpongeBob SquarePants type show. But anyhow, all right.
Broke Tuesday followed by disastrous Wednesday.
Okay, now.
Every time it's missing, you.
And now, of course, you have the climate. Now, this is 1974. 1974, some big things was happening. First of all, you had the first U.S. president to get impeached. And if you notice, Good Times makes a lot of reference to inflation, what was going on inflation-wise, what was going on with Watergate and the impeachment. 1974. What happened in 1974 in pop culture? Prices, significant events. Richard Nixon becomes the first U.S. president forced to resign. United States President Richard Nixon resigns from office on the 9th of August, 1974. Now, that's one of many things that was happening, but you had the gas price crisis. You had lots of things going on. Let's look at it. Okay, 1974, inflation continues to spiral out of control around the world, reaching 11.3% in the US and 17.2% in the UK, and the global recession deepens. The famous skeleton Lucy is discovered in Ethiopia. This same year, Good Times comes out. So now you can see a reason. You see reasons now for Good Times to coming out. Just the first two things we named. Inflation. Next, this proof of the first man as being African, boosting pride, right? Again, we know the trickery behind all of that. We know that they say that they were listening to the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and we know that Lucy is really a shortage or a nickname for Lucifer. It is a way to say the light or the light bearer. And so Lucy really means the light. So the light is discovered in Ethiopia, which lived between 3.9 to 3 million years ago. And that is to help to also prop up the ideas of evolution. Sometimes they try to kill 7 birds with one stone if they can. So it's propping up the idea of evolution while it's also focusing the black man's attention on Africa, focusing the whole world's attention on Africa as being the cradle of civilization, and giving a black person more reason to claim Africa. Remember, Richard Pryor inserted this in his skit that came out around this same time. What was that? Richard Pryor Life at the Sunset Strip, I think. When he's got on the red suit and he makes the joke and talks about how Dr. Leakey and them discovered those bones and they named it Lucy and blah, blah, blah. And he said, wow, ain't that something? The first black person to ever have consciousness, the first person to ever have consciousness was black. Can't you imagine that? Just waking up one day. Where am I? And how do I get to Detroit? And so that discovery was used to help cement the idea of black folks as descendants of Africa, of African slaves, and that's that. That's the end of it. The bottom line. Open and close the door on it. And real quick, a cost of a gallon of gas in 1974 was 42 cents. The average monthly rent was $185. Yeah, I ain't lying. So a dozen eggs was 45 cents. So that's the climate that brought forth good times. Now, with that being said, I'm going to shut up my head. All right. 160 folks watching, 126 likes. Please hit that like if you can do so tonight. We appreciate you showing appreciation too. Let's go.
Disastrous Wednesday. From there, the rest of the week go downhill.
Today is the beginning of Black History Week.
Well, Sweet Daddy Williams is black.
But you should be painting someone more relevant to Black history.
Relevant? Are you jiving? Sweet Daddy Williams owns 3 apartment houses, 2 Cadillacs, and a Lincoln. Ain't never worked a day in his life and ain't never been to jail. He's the same dude that got shot 5 times and ran 7 miles to the hospital. Now, if that ain't Black history, I don't know what is.
The Pan-African Council is sponsoring an art show this week. If you had a better painting, you might win a prize.
Well, if I can get Sweet Daddy Williams together, we just may make that scene, Michael. But first, I go downtown and get some art supplies.
How you gonna get art supplies? You don't have any money.
Never bothered Robin Hood.
You better not let Mama hear you say that. Wow, out of sight. This is fantastic. When did you paint this, JJ?
What?
This.
Oh, last week.
What is it?
I call it Black Jesus.
Black Jesus. Now this is what the brothers need. Groovy, super, heavy.
Relax, Michael. It's only a painting, not the second coming.
What might have happened? Nothing. Hey, Dama, how you like this? What is it? Don't show your ignorance. This is Black Jesus. Black Jesus, my foot. That's Ned the wino. You mean the dude who's always walking up and down the street drinking wine and preaching? Ned the wino, better known as the ghetto prophet. Yeah, he's always predicting the end of the world and asking for a dime for some wine so he can die happy. And the Hermeticism begins. The picture that is depicting the Messiah as black has to slander him simultaneously, or else it wouldn't be Hermetic. And so he's Ned the wino.
who happens to be played by the same character that plays Woody the Wino, Aunt Esther's husband on Sanford and Son. There was a small group or fraternity, if you will, of black actors even then. But let's continue. Lots to glean. And yes, the hand gesture, occult. So it's an occult depiction of a black Jesus modeled after a neighborhood drunk.
Which he does every night.
JJ, you sure know how to pick your models or wino Jesus?
It's only a symbol of Jesus.
Hey, JJ, you should introduce him to the exhibit.
No way. Now, Sweet Daddy Williams here is one of a kind. Just a few finishing touches, and he gonna be ready for Black History.
Sure is a shame to keep this in the closet. Hey, since both are just symbols of Jesus, a black family should have a black symbol.
If Mama sees that there, she gonna kill you.
No. That Ned the Wino was not buckwheat. Coppertone said, I always wanted them to open the door in the kitchen. LOL. Let's see. Peace and blessings to you, Brother Ty. And that was Sister Dinah's question. Right, 720, the two fingers up. That's what I want to look at real fast here. Couldn't think of the name of it. I know it's just another version of Hermeticism. It's the 11. Okay, but let's see. I forget the proper name of it. Okay, the satanic statue in Detroit also has the same two fingers up. All peace signs are satanic Luciferian symbols. Sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. There it is. That's Hermeticism. That's Hermeticism. That's the same two fingers pointing up, right? The duality, the 11, the wizard, and the devil that empowers him. Peace and blessings, Chocolate E. Let's ride in Moses. Welcome. And welcome, Victoria Toussaint Hill. Salvation and Glory 7. Welcome. Welcome, Sister April. Sister April Johnson in the house. Anybody else that I missed, I'm sorry. Please don't think I was trying to diss. Right on. Yes. Okay, so there it is. All right, so yes. All right, let's go back to it now. That's the best way to throw that away. Look how JJ looking. What? I painted that? Ma! No.
Jesus may have your soul, but Mama gonna have your behind. Go on now, baby.
I'm gonna put that magazine down and get in that kitchen and clean it out.
Hi, Mama. How's things down in the laundry?
Peace, Sister Nicole.
Well, I had a chat with Princess Grace and Elizabeth Taylor. The princess was rinsing her husband's shorts, and Liz was waiting for her diamonds to dry. Now move out of my way. I got work to do.
But, Mama, what about the...
Honey, why do you keep jumping up in my face? I know what you look like. Now move. Well, I hope the space lab is out of the way because I am just about to go into orbit. I don't have to ask who hung this here, Michael Evans, but before I hang you in its place, why?
Mama, it's just a symbol of Jesus.
Well, hello, symbol, and goodbye.
JJ painted him.
Whole thing on me, Michael. I had him in the closet where he wasn't performing no miracles for nobody.
one thing he don't need is a partner.
Mama, how do we know Jesus wasn't black? He could have been from the lost tribe of Israel. They were supposed to be black.
I bet they
Here it
were.
goes.
If ever people were lost, we're it.
Now, dropping science right behind it so you don't digest what he said, although what he said was a deflection, the same deflection used in the Sanford and Son episode to point you to the fallacious. Somebody said something about Jesus being black or Jews being black. They point you to this one tribe among all of the Eastern European looking Jews of the world. They say this one tribe is the only one like it. So after, back then, even as it is now, some people didn't even know that it was fallacious Jews, that they even existed. So when Michael's character says those lines, right behind him saying it, Jimmy Walker is supposed to come in with his buffoonery. The same buffoonery that made Esther Rowe, who was a very conscious woman, she had the way of an Easter, and James Amos, who had been an accomplished actor. It made both of them ticked off once they realized his job. Every time it was serious dialogue or something too serious for the primetime TV audience to enjoy or to digest, then here comes the jester to come in and say something to kind of diffuse the whole situation, disarm you. If you're feeling a little uptight, or maybe something uncomfortable is going on, then here comes JJ. Comic relief, they call it, to relieve you of your senses. But notice how he does that. He plays this game. He comes right behind him, says what he says, and what he says is a doozy. And really, no laughing matter. What he says, the audience, if there was no applause sign up, so don't be fooled when they say taped in front of a live audience. All that means is that instead of a laugh track, there's an applause sign. So after JJ says what he says, following Michael putting everybody up on the fallacious, watch the applause and the laughter. They shouldn't laugh.
Mama, how do we know Jesus wasn't black? He could have been from the lost tribe of Israel. They were supposed to be black.
I bet they were. If ever people were lost, we're it.
Now just hush up, both of you. This picture has been in my family for as long as I can remember. When I was a baby, I don't know what I saw first. My mama, my papa, or this Jesus. Now he's the one I know and love. So let's close the subject. Jesus was black, the Bible would have said so.
But it does say so.
What are you talking about?
I read about it. It's in Revelations chapter 1, verse 14. I read about it in Muhammad Speaks. It says,
There was a good plug for the Nation of Islam. The Muhammad Speaks was their paper. Then the Final Call became the famous paper that folks get from the Muslim brothers and sisters. But interesting that there would be a shout out to Black Islam while he's trying to show something in the Bible to his mom. Dope! Hermeticism left and right. We ain't done. We're not done. 132 likes. 160 folks watching tonight. We got a full house.
his hair is like wool, and his eyes are like flaming fire.
Oh, Lord have mercy. It sure do say that, don't it?
Now, how come she ain't never seen that before in her Bible?
Like wool, ain't it? And look at them eyes, red like fire.
Okay, now, folks, at 2 hours and 30 minutes in, I have to give this announcement, okay? For some reason, the battery is just draining away. We're at 2%, so it could get cut off at any given time. The good thing is there's been no indication that we're going to get a copyright strike. The bad thing is it's going to take me a minute to get charged back up so we can continue for tonight. So, I want to let you know, Just in case. Right. For some reason, it's draining, okay? I mean, we at 2%. So it can cut me off at any given time. I'm physically holding the charger into the socket to make sure that everything is connecting. So let's go. Let's make the most out of this. Now, we're going to play this as long as we can. If it gets cut off, you know what happened. And we'll come back to it as soon as we can. All right? Yep. Oh, no. That's right. So that's what's happening. Okay, that's what's happening. Worst come to worst, again, because once it's dead, it's going to take a long time. So we may have to come back to this tomorrow. I hate to cause you grief, pain, and sorrow. But we're going to see, okay? So we're going to see. 720, I think it's possible. Peace and blessings, heavenly. Okay, so let's see what we can do. I'm sorry, but that's where we at. Okay? All right, so like I said, worst case scenario, I'll do a special Sunday night show and finish this up, okay? Right. Yeah, because Big Neff, I'd hate for it to just get cut off and everybody wonder what happened. Okay, right. Okay, so you get 2 nights instead of 1. So we at 2% now. In all probability, that's what's going to happen. Okay, but I'm going to let it play. We're still at 2%. So I'm going to let it play. Sister Elaine said early Sunday, probably not early. At the earliest, it would be in the afternoon, but more than likely to be the evening, like around 9. Okay, so let's do it.
Yeah, they sure is. Jenny, how come you decided to paint this?
I don't know. All of a sudden, I just had divine thoughts on my mind.
And for JJ, that's a first.
What, having divine thoughts?
No, having a mind.
I guess I ought to be grateful for JJ having Jesus on his mind in any color.
Then we can hang it on the wall, Mama?
Well, now,
Please, Mama.
All right. But just for Black History Week. After that, he comes down.
Good. I'll go get a hook for it.
Hi, I'm Walona. Fly me.
We're still at 2%, like the nasty milk.
A cup of coffee and make it like I like my men. Hot, black, and strong. Walona, don't you ever come in without making a joke? No, but I was out with one last night. 5 feet 1, 250 pounds, bald-headed, with 8 pair of hands. All working at the same time.
Okay, now we got 1%, so I know it's about to be over. So let's say goodnight right now. Jeffrey Jones said we're a 2% nation. Now, when it comes to that old watery milk. But anyway, so we're going to come back. Worst case scenario tomorrow, okay? As opposed to just letting this cut off any old type of way. So that's what we're going to do. Yes. I'm holding it. My hand going to freeze in this position. But that's where we're at. So that's what we're going to say. We're going to say goodnight. And it's, more than likely it's going to be 2 hours worth of charging. And that's just not going to work out right. So we're going to guarantee it for tomorrow night. Okay, tomorrow night we'll pick up with the end of this and our readings. And maybe I'll give y'all a little Aretha just for the inconvenience. Maybe I'll give you a little reread tomorrow night just for the inconvenience. Peace and blessings to you, big sister B. Good to see you in the house. And all emails to and especially yours, sis. I thank you so much for your offer. All emails that have been sent, I'm going to deal with them, get them answered tomorrow. Okay, I'll be working on that Sunday and Monday. So expect to hear back from me if you've not heard back from me yet. Okay, and I thank you for emailing me. I thank you all for hanging in there tonight. BrotherMenTheo@gmail.com. If you're not already familiar with it, here you go. This is how you email me. Send me an email, prayer request, or a songwriter secret suggestion overall. brothermantheo@gmail.com if you want to sow a seed by way of PayPal. A Temple of the Truer Yahshua at yahoo.com. And that's how we're going to do it. We're going to end it before they do. All right? Love y'all. Love y'all. That's what we're going to do. All right. Good night, Big Sister Vanette, Sister Coco, Sister Nisa Love, and all the rest of the family. Check y'all tomorrow. Brother Reg, SIL, Jesus the Way, Truth, Life, in Moses. Good night. Dun, 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 dun. Knock him out the box, Ted.